It's The Log. I'm Charles Purcell, and this is our 1-year anniversary of the program. 1 year. So what we thought we'd do today, give you a little special show. It's some highlights, some of our favorite moments from our first year. We're going to start with some poetry by Uncle Chuck, followed by Chucky Bucky and a special dream he shared with us this year. Then it's my story of the day I met Jimmy Carter. Follow that with Baco and his story from our Halloween episode, The Mad Shears. Also, a nice segment with Chuck and Chucky on the climate crisis. Climate crisis solutions, the best solutions. We can take the quiz, see how much we know about the best solutions for the climate crisis. And then we close with an archive recording from 1933, my grandfather Lionel Purcell, when he hosted The Log many, many years ago. So first up, some poetry by Uncle Chuck. A patch of silent clover. A patch of silent clover encircled by mystery. Unknown flyers and those who would consume them. Squirrels, rabbits, and the telltale divots of last night's dinner guest. Take me with you where you will go. Give me sustenance, relief from woe. My portal, my home. The time has come to find delight. The time has come to find delight. If only you will try to let your dreams and love take flight as you wave a fond goodbye. Travel with them where they may, let not your plans defer. Look them in the eye and say, I bow to you, good sir. Then, when fear begins to howl, stand your ground, my friend. The cruelest beast of tooth and jowl will not yet be your end. For you have come so far as this to reach what you deserve. Give a finger. Find your bliss. If you think you've got the nerve. What's up, Chucky Bucky?
You know what? I had a dream last night. And I know, you've said before, I've heard you say it before, you don't like hearing people's dreams. But
no, go ahead. That's fine. Let's hear your dream.
So here's the dream. There's these two groups of people, and somehow, for reasons I don't know, they kind of get stuck next to each other, like geographically, right? And they're very different types, and there's some animosity and there's some distrust, right? Like they're gonna kill me or something. That's my dream. And they live right there, right close to each other. These two small communities, but they share the same space. So they wind up putting kind of borders between them, physical borders, and they're kind of watching each other, and they're always got their looking out behind their backs, and is he gonna kill me, or am I gonna? Maybe I'll get a chance to kill him, So that's the world they're living in, and it's very upsetting. And in the beginning of the dream, we don't even recognize the other community as people. At first in the dream, they're animals, and we gotta watch out for them. And as the dream progresses, they change from wild animals, which we want to kill, to people who we don't trust, and we still maybe we'll have to kill if we have to. So that's what's going on there. And in the course of the dream, what happens is, it turns out that we're not in control of our own situation, right? Meaning that it comes to be known in the dream that our side as well as their side both have leaders like, government types, like high elites who are telling us how to deal with our problems, right? So for the two communities to get along okay, we make some progress in the dream, and we start to talk and think, okay, well, we got to live here together, so how's this going to go? And we both have to negotiate a little bit, but here's the problem. It's not up to us. It's up to the leaders who aren't even there. They're way off in the capital, far away. Ours and theirs too. They're off in whatever their capital is. So the dream, the two communities start to get together. Like I say, they're not animals anymore. Now they're people. And we start to break down the walls just a little bit, both, literal physical walls and the figuratively walls. And we start to talk a little bit and negotiate about how we're going to get together and share this world that, this community that we live in, and not be so afraid of each other and try to kill each other and stuff. But the problem comes, so we have to then get permission. We got to get the go-ahead, got to get the okay from our leaders. Our respective leaders. So whatever we decide together in this small community, we go, okay, well, that sounds pretty good, but now let's go check and make sure it's okay with the leaders, because they got to give it the stamp of the okay. And then so that's what happens, right? So then they come back with the okay from the leaders, but here's the thing, it's not an okay. They say, no, you can't do that. Both sides, from my community, the leaders that come back, we get the message back saying, nope, that's not going to work for us. What you've negotiated is not good. They're still your enemy. And same thing happens on the other side. No, they're still your enemy. But by now, we've been really kind of talking and getting along pretty good, and we're starting to really trust each other and share the space and kind of get to liking each other. And so we're all kind of upset by this news. And so we continue to try to hash it out. And finally, after a couple of rounds of this, saying, okay, negotiate, and then get the okay from the leaders, and then they put the kibosh on it. And, this is very upsetting. So, but by now, we're all really getting along pretty good, because we've taken all this time to get to know each other, and we're trusting each other, and we're not trying to kill each other anymore, and everything's pretty good. But we can't get the okay from the leaders to implement, the rules and stuff. So here's how it comes out, and it's kind of a loose end. I don't know how it's going to end. Maybe I'll dream it again tonight. But here's the real kicker then. So we decide that we thought we were enemies, but as it turned out, we're not each other's enemies. It turns out that our respective leaders are the enemies, because after a while of going back and forth, they're threatening now, the leaders, to come in to our community and to lay down the law, right? And they're going to push us around and tell us how to do things. And they're going to start, the leaders will kind of bring in people to kill one community, and then the other leaders to kill the other community. And so now we've got to join forces, and that's where the dream ended, with these threats of violence and repression coming from outside into now what is one really happy little community. Oh, don't know what's going to happen, but we're all together. We're now united, even though our respective leaders tell us that we can't be. They're prohibiting this, and they're going to come and use force to end our alliance. So it ends very precariously, and we don't know what's going to happen. Like I said, maybe I'll dream it tonight. And see, now I thought that was a pretty good little dream there I had there. How's that for a dream, huh?
It's The Log. You're listening to some highlights from Season 1 on our 1-year anniversary here. Next up, the story of when I met Jimmy Carter. I was a young guy, and just a few years earlier, in 1976, I had turned 18 years old and cast my first ever ballot for Jimmy Carter. And I was always very happy about that, proud to cast that vote. So several years later, I'm still a young guy. What am I, 24, 5, something like that. I had a girlfriend at the time, in show business, and she was doing a gig in Atlanta. She was doing some theater down there. I was living in California at the time. So I flew down to Atlanta to spend some time with my girlfriend. And one Sunday morning, she had a Sunday matinee to do. I thought, you know what? I'm not that far from Plains. I'm going to drive down to Plains, see if I can see Jimmy Carter. I didn't even know if he'd be there, but I figured, well, I'll go to his church because I heard, he's always at church on a Sunday, teaching his Sunday school classes. So I'll just go down to Plains. I'll just drive down there in my rented car, see if I can find him. So I did. Jumped in my car. Beautiful drive. If you've never been to the South, especially, not just the freeways, but especially the off-roads, the side roads, the country roads, oh, it's beautiful. A kind of green you just don't see anywhere else. Lush, beautiful. This was summertime. Really beautiful. So it was a nice drive. Running a little bit late. I'm afraid I'm going to miss it. I wasn't even sure which church, but I knew Plains was a very small town, so I kind of just drove around and looked for a church. Found one, went in. Whoop, that's the wrong church. Okay, get back in my car. Took me just a couple of minutes, and there I was at Jimmy Carter's church. The service was just about to begin. I walked timidly through the back door, the main door, find myself a little seat, try to be inconspicuous. And it's just a small crowd. Place wasn't packed. Small church, congregation. You could tell a few were tourists like me, fans. And I got there just in time to hear the preacher, the guy in charge, kind of giving the ground rules. He said, yes, President Carter is here, and he'd be very happy to meet you after the service. He'd be very happy to pose for a picture with you, if you care to do that. He requests, please, no autographs. I wasn't sure why, but he said no autographs. Okay. So those are the ground rules. So I sit through the service, and afterwards, on this beautiful summer day, a warm, moist breeze greeted us as we all left the church, and there was a kind of a wooden walkway, kind of a deck porch outside of the side of the church. And I hung back, kind of shy, as President Carter greeted well-wishers. And they spoke for a moment, and took a picture, and shook hands. And finally, I couldn't put it off anymore because everyone took off. And there I am, standing there. Just me and Jimmy. It was pretty great. And I was a mess. I was shy, nervous. I just looked at him. I shook his small, frail hand, and I just said, thank you. I couldn't come up with anything else. That's all I said. I just said, thank you. And he was very kind, of course, as you would imagine. He looks you right in the eye, that little smile, that famous smile. And we made a little chit-chat. I have no idea what we said. Obviously he could sense my ineptness, but was very kind about it. So we made a little talk. I didn't have a camera with me, so no picture. I did muster up the nerve to say, I know you're not signing autographs, but I wonder if you'd make an exception and sign your memoir, which I had bought recently. And I brought it to Atlanta with me with this idea in mind that I might get a chance to meet him. So he said, sure, I'll sign the book. I'll autograph your book. And I said, it's really not my book. It's my mother's. I gave it to her as a gift because she was a big fan of yours, and as am I. So would you sign it for my mother? He said, sure. And it was only then that I realized I had left the book in my car. And oh no. Oh, I'm sorry. I left it in my car. I'll go get it. And then he does an amazing thing. Jimmy Carter looks at me and says, well, I'll walk with you. So there's no parking lot. It's just all grass. We're all parked on the grass. And I was one of the last ones to arrive, the last one to arrive, so I'm at the far end of this little grassy area where people had parked. So we had a good, at least 20, 30 yards to walk. And we walked to the car. Again, chit-chat that I have no memory of at all. I don't remember what we talked about. Just me and Jimmy Carter. I get the book out of the car. He signs it for me, wishes me well. I thank him again, and he turns and walks back to the church. And I just stood there in a moment that I knew would be with me for the rest of my life. And I watched him walk back to the church. And it was only then that I noticed the Secret Service agents at various locations. Of course, they'd been with us the whole time, but I never noticed. So he walked back in the church. I got back in my car, feeling a bit lightheaded about the whole thing. Yeah, I had met my hero. And not only that, I got to have a real moment with him. And I got to thank him. We're celebrating our 1-year anniversary of The Log. Next up, a story from our Halloween special, The Mad Shears.
Okay, everybody gather around now. Many years ago, right here in this neighborhood of River West, was an old house. And in its day, it was a beautiful house. Everybody admired it. And the old man who owned it, he took really good care of it. He was a friend to everyone. Old Jasper, they called him. Well, one day Jasper was out trimming his hedges in the front lawn. It was the last trim of the season, October. The sun was already setting pretty early in the evening. The leaves were already flying around the neighborhood. And old Jasper was doing one last little yard cleanup before the snows. No one knows what happened to Jasper that day. For some reason, the shears he was using to clip his hedges, the heavy, sharp shears, took on a mind of their own. People who witnessed the event said old Jasper seemed helpless. The shears would whack and whack and whack at the shrubbery, and then to the next shrub and the next and the trees, and they went wild, haphazardly chopping off little branches and limbs on poor innocent plants and trees, while Jasper helplessly clung to the handles trying to stop it. And then he was trying to let go, but he couldn't. People who tell the story tell how Jasper was crying out in anguish, "Help me! Help me! Stop this madness!" But the shears continued until they literally lifted Jasper right off of his feet. As the shears continued to clap, 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 chopping off branches of trees, Jasper continued to cry in anguish. His neighbors watched helplessly. They tried themselves to reach him, to help him, but when they did, the shears would attack the people. One man had his finger chopped off. Another man nearly lost an eye. Another his nose. Unable to help old Jasper, most of them fled, fearing for their own safety. Many police officers had now gathered, and officials from the town, and all they could do was watch. What shall we do? By this time, Jasper is literally flying from tree to tree and house to house, and the magical shears are now cutting not just branches, they're flying into people's windows, breaking the windows. They're flying up to telephone lines and power lines and cutting them, causing sparks and fires. The police finally decide, after hours of helplessly watching, that they had no choice. The chief of police gave the order, and the policemen drew their guns. They would have to shoot him down. "Try not to kill old Jasper," he said, "but this must end." But the neighbors argued, "It's not Jasper, it's the crazy mad shears who have come to life." "I don't know what else to do," said the chief of police. All of the police were tense. They were gripped in fear at this spectacle they were seeing. They had their guns drawn, and as you might guess, a young officer, trembling, unintentionally, fired his weapon. It went right through Jasper's heart. But the shears would not let him fall. The shears continued to fly and to swoop in arcs and circles, chopping tree limbs and power lines and flying haphazardly through the air, while old Jasper hung limp, dead beneath them, his lifeless body swaying with the mad shears' every move. Everyone receded back into their houses, with nothing left to do but maintain the safety of themselves and their families, and try against the odds to stay sane. The mad shears held the neighborhood in a grip of dull terror. When night turned into day, and the neighbors bravely ventured out onto the street, all was quiet. It was a dark, cold morning, November 1st. A light snow had dusted the street. Limbs and branches, large and small, littered the street. Fallen telephone lines lay in the snow. The mad shears and Jasper nowhere to be seen. The neighbors and the authorities cleaned up the neighborhood as best they could and wondered in disbelief whatever could have happened to Jasper. And as the sun began to set on the early evening of that first day of November, a small boy discovered the shears on the side of Jasper's house. Behind some deep shrubs, he discovered the shears, closed tightly, and both thick blades sunk deeply into Jasper's heart. And from that day since, through these many years, people in the neighborhood have seen Jasper for fleeting moments, suspended over the lamppost, clinging lifelessly to the mad shears.
Chuck and Chucky, we're going to play a little game here, okay? The most effective ways to curb climate change might surprise you. The planet is barreling toward 1.5 degrees of global warming as soon as 2030 unless we enact unprecedented changes in all aspects of society, a dire United Nations report warned in October. To reduce our impact on the climate and avert disaster, it's going to take more than switching to high-efficiency light bulbs. But the most effective ways that individuals, policymakers, and businesses can reduce our carbon footprint might surprise you. Let's see how much you know about what can be done to fight climate change. All right, we're going to rank the solutions. Here's how this works. The group Project Drawdown has ranked the most effective climate change solutions, and below we've separated some of the top ones by category. Actions are labeled to indicate whether they can be implemented by individuals, companies, or policymakers. Okay, so first question, our food. 1, 2, 3, there are 4 choices. You're going to rank them, okay? They are, in no particular order, eat a plant-heavy diet, cook over clean stoves, throw away less food, compost your waste. So what do you think?
Okay, let's see. Throw away less food is going to be number 1, I'd say. And then eat a plant-heavy diet would be number 2. Number 3, cook over clean stoves. I'm not sure what does it mean by clean stoves?
I'm not exactly sure what they mean by that. And then, so compost your waste should be number 4. Okay, so that's our order. Throw away less food. Number 2, eat a plant-heavy diet. Number 3, cook over clean stoves. So these are all good things to do, but we're just rating them. All right, good. So now we click on how'd I do. Hey, we got them all right. Good going, you guys. Throwing away less food would be similar to taking 495 million cars off the road. Number 2, eat a plant-heavy diet. Just a little less, 464 million cars off the road is the equivalent. Cooking over clean stoves, this would be similar to taking 111 million cars off the road. And compost your waste, 16 million. So composting, though it's great, it doesn't even compare to simply throwing away less food. And that is something that both individuals and industries can do. And policymakers can create policies that either mandate or encourage these activities. Pretty good. Okay, well, you got 4 right. Nice going. Next, how we move people and goods. They are, in no particular order, invest in high-speed trains, fly less and on fuel-saving planes, ship goods more efficiently, drive an electric car.
Well, now driving an electric car still takes electrical energy. Sometimes I'm not sure about that because unless we get our electric, if you're getting your electric from coal, then that's not helping much. I don't know. Let's see. So high-speed trains, I don't think that's going to rank very high. Ship goods more efficiently. All right, let's see. Let's go. I'm going to put drive electric car number 1, okay?
All right, and then ship goods more efficiently, number 2. That would leave fly less as number 3, and then high-speed trains, number 4.
Okay, let's go with that. All right, click and see how we did. Oh, we did it again! Guys, I'm very proud of how we're doing here. I wasn't sure at all.
Yeah, we got it. So, number 1, drive an electric car. This would be similar to taking 75.7 million cars off the road. Number 2, ship goods more efficiently. This would be similar to taking 55.2 million cars. Number 3, fly less. 35.4 million cars taken off the road is the equivalent. And number 4, invest in high-speed trains. Now, as much as we love high-speed trains, I'm not sure how they're doing their calculations here. We really have to use them in order for them to be efficient. But we're 4 out of 4 again. Wow, you guys. All right. Let's continue. For our homes and cities, here are the choices. Rank them as far as best solutions. Use smart thermostats. Design more walkable cities. Switch to LED light bulbs. Install green roofs.
Is it roofs or roofs? That's like dwarfs and dwarves, like in the Snow White and the 7 roofs? Okay, I think that's roof is number. Oh gosh, I don't know. Let me read them again. Use smart thermostats. Design more walkable cities. Switch to LED light bulbs. That's got to be number 4, right? Drag that over to 4. More walkable cities, smart thermostats. Geez, I don't know about this one. I'm totally guessing.
All right, what we got here? Thermostats number 1 is what we're going to do. And then install green roofs number 2. Yeah, and then that would leave design more walkable cities number 3 and switch to LED light bulbs number 4. I don't know. I'm totally guessing on this one. I really have no idea. Let's see how we did. Oh, we got them all wrong, you guys. LED light bulbs is number 1. I had no idea. Wow. More walkable cities is number 2. 3rd is use smart thermostats. And number 4, install green roofs. We got 0 right on that one, you guys. Boy. Okay, well, we're learning something. I guess I didn't realize LED light bulbs were so effective. I did not know that. Okay, well, next, how we use our land. Here are the options. Plant more bamboo. Really? I don't know what that's about. Return land to indigenous people. Oh, I want to put that number 1 right there. Protect and restore tropical forests. I like that. Preserve coastal wetlands. Guys, this is way harder than I expected it to be.
You're right. I don't know about. I have no idea. All of these sound good. I don't know. I never heard about bamboo. I don't know how this is a big thing.
Yeah, I never heard about that either. Protect and restore tropical forests. Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, all right. Okay. So what have you got there, Charles Purcell? What you got? Return land to indigenous people, number 1. Yeah, and tropical forest, number 2. Bamboo, number 3. I don't know why. I have no idea what that's about. And then preserve coastal wetlands. Okay, well, we started out so good. Now this is a total guess here. How'd we do here? Oh, well, we got one right. Preserving coastal wetlands is number 4. And we guessed correctly on that. But the number 1 is protect and restore tropical forests. We had it at number 2, and it's actually number 1. Plant more bamboo would be similar to taking 50.6 million cars off the road. I'll have to look into that. I'll have to look into the bamboo. And of course, well, I think returning land to indigenous peoples is just something is close to our heart. We've talked about it so many times. We rank that number 1, and it's number 3 on this chart. Well, there's a few more here. Should we keep going? Oh, sure. This is fun. Well, it's sort of, unless we start really losing bad, which I think we have now. All right, electricity use. Options: capture the power of the waves. That's got to be 4. Invest in nuclear power, harness wind and energy on land, and build solar farms. Okay, solar, wind energy, nuclear power, and the power of the waves. In that order, you think? Build solar farms, number 1. Let's put wind energy. Oh goodness. Okay, solar 1, wind 2, nuclear 3, waves 4.
Okay by me. Click it. All right, well, okay, we got the 3rd and 4th. Nuclear power and waves are 3 and 4. We just switched around wind and solar. Okay, so we did pretty good on that one. Although, as I'm reading this here, wind is twice as impactful as solar farms. So that's interesting. That's news I did not know. We're learning. Yeah, I didn't know that either. So wind energy, 593 million cars off the road. That's the equivalent. And solar farms, 259 million. So we switched 1 and 2. Not bad. Good job, you guys. Good job. Materials and waste management. Options: build with greener cement compounds, use water more efficiently, clean up chemicals in our refrigerators and air conditioners, increase household recycling. Okay, all right. So recycling, let's put that dead last. Recycling is a joke from everything I read. Air conditioners and refrigerators, because every dang house in America and in the world. So I'm going to go that one number 1. You guys agree?
Yeah, just because of sheer volume. I read the other day that, we were on our rampage against manicured lawns. Suburban lawns are the largest crop in America as far as land mass, more than any other commercial crop. So, it gets down to just sheer numbers. There's so many damn houses. So let's put refrigerators and air conditioners on number 1. Recycling number 4. That leaves use water more efficiently and build with greener cement compounds. Let's go with water and then as number 2, and then greener cement as number 3. You guys like this? The 2 and 3 might be switched, I think. Water more efficiently. You want to switch them? Yeah, let's go build with greener cement as number 2.
Okay, all right. Once again, this is very difficult, but let's see how we did. All right, hit it. Oh, there you go. Good job, guys. We got them all. All right, chemicals in refrigerators and air conditioners. If we clean them up, 620 million cars off the road. That's the equivalent. That's crazy. Oh, that's really something. Yeah, I think you're right, Charles Purcell. Just the sheer numbers of people, refrigerators and air conditioners, they're everywhere. You got a couple in every house. Okay, and then number 2, build with greener cement compounds. There again, it's just land mass. Think about it like you're saying with the lawns.
Right. And then use water more efficiently. That's 32 million cars off the road. And household recycling. Well, you're right there, Chucky Bucky. It is effective, but not compared to other things. Recycling we need to rethink that, how we're doing it. Only 19.4 million cars, which is great, but it certainly doesn't compare to 629 million cars. Goodness mercy. All right, we got 2 more to go here. Empowering women. 2 of these solutions are tied for total project emissions reductions. Okay, so we have 3, 2 of them are tied. They are close the gender gap in small-scale farming, educate girls, increase access to family planning. Okay, well, I think this is easy.
family planning and education have to be tied for first, and then gender gap in small scale farming number 3. You guys think so? I don't know. This might come up and bite us. We are talking about the impact on the environment here specifically. So maybe the gender gap is going to surprise us and be tied for first. Let's find out. Should I leave it the way it is? Yeah, educate and increase family planning number 1 and 2. Or excuse me, tied for first, right?
Yep. Okay. Yep, we got it.
There we go. Good job, you guys. Increase access to family planning and educate girls, tied for first. 361 million cars off the road is the equivalent. Close the gender gap in small-scale farming. Yeah, it's a more kind of a specific thing. Only 14.4 million, but sure. Okay. One more?
Yep, just one more. Oh, God, we have to rank the top 5 here. Project Drawdown's top 5 solutions for curbing climate change. Okay, here are the 5. Eat more plants and less meat. Restore our tropical forests. Manage refrigeration chemicals. Cut down on food waste. Install onshore wind turbines.
Okay, let's see here. Cut down on food waste. We kind of had a similar question earlier. Should we put that number 1 and then eat more plants as number 2?
Yes, and then I would say manage refrigeration chemicals based on what we just saw. Let's make that number 3. And then that would leave restore tropical forests and install onshore wind turbines. Let's make that number 5, the turbines, and forests number 4. All right, are we agreed here?
Yeah, okay, let's go. Let's see. All right, this is the last one now. How'd we do? Oh, you guys, we got them all wrong. Oh, we blew it. We blew it here to finish. Oh, my goodness. Okay, let's go through. Manage refrigeration chemicals is number 1 at 629. Again, million cars we're talking about. Install onshore wind turbines. That surprises me. 593 million. Cut down on food waste. We had it at number 1. It's number 3. 495 million. Eat more plants and less meat. That's ranked 4th from this list. We had it at number 2, 464. And restore tropical forest, number 4. No, number 5. We had it at 4 at 429.
Okay, so I want to give us a little credit here. These are all really great things to do. They're all very impactful, and they're pretty close. So once again, in order, manage refrigeration chemicals. Number 2, install onshore wind turbines. Number 3, cut down on food waste. Number 4, eat more plants and less meat. Number 5, restore our tropical forests. Those are the top 5 solutions for curbing climate change, according to Project Drawdown. And we close our highlight show here on our 1-year anniversary by going way back in the archives, February 1933 edition of The Log with the original host, my grandfather, Lionel Bursell.
Scotch Cellulose Tape presents The Log, a weekly offering of news and opinion. From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, here's your host, Lionel Bursell.
Hello, friends. Greetings from Milwaukee. Haven't spoken with you since the holidays. Hope you had a grand time. Evelyn and I saw the new movie Tarzan, the Ape Man. Have you seen this one yet? Oh, it's swell. Olympic gold medal swimmer Johnny Weissmuller plays in the title role. I'd say he handled the role quite swimmingly. Speaking of the holidays, Evelyn and I took our baby Chuck up to spend Christmas with my folks in Lugerville, up by the old lumber camp where I worked as a boy. The timber game is waning these days, but life goes on in the old hometown. Dad is running a little tavern up there now, nothing ritzy, you know. He's still active in local politics, a founding progressive he was. Proud to say that Fighting Bob LaFollette, former Wisconsin governor, was a frequent guest on Dad's front porch back in the day. Of course, he's gone now, but his son, Young Bob, we call him, he's one of our Wisconsin senators, of course. Whenever he travels that part of the state, you're sure to find him on one of Dad's bar stools with a cup of joe, sometimes with a little extra flavoring in it, if you know what I mean. Talking politics with the boys. But enough about the family. Let's see, what else has happened since last we spoke? Well, congratulations to the University of Southern California Trojans for their Rose Bowl victory over the Panthers of Pittsburgh. Both unbeaten during the 1932 college football season, they met for the annual brouhaha in Pasadena, with USC winning the day 35-0. Construction of the Golden Gate Bridge has beginning with the anchorage for the tower at Marin on the north side of San Francisco Bay. The project is funded by a $35 million bond issue and by the Federal Works Progress Administration. The bridge will be open to the public in 1937. Or did you hear about these confidential cablegrams between Hoover and FDR that the New York Times got hold of? Oh, now here's a story. Of course, President-elect Franklin Delano Roosevelt of New York won a landslide presidential election on November 8th, defeating the incumbent Herbert Hoover, thank goodness. Well, we're in the transition phase now, of course, and the New York Times reported just before Christmas on a series of letters and cablegrams that were supposed to remain confidential, wherein Hoover asks FDR to team up on the sly for some economic policy in exchange for some early presidential power. A highly unusual request, to say the least, what with our tradition of having one president at a time. FDR refused to participate in the scheme because, as far as the public is concerned, Hoover is to blame for the whole mess. It makes no sense for FDR to hitch to the Hoover wagon, whatever the offer. Of course, trouble continues in our land. Unemployment's now up over 20% and still rising. Let's hope FDR can make good. Also, on January 1st, before the Pasadena Roses even had a chance to wilt on the parade floats, news from Nicaragua. Looks like the 20-year American occupation is over. General Matthews, the U.S. commander of the Nicaraguan National Guard, turned over his authority to Nicaraguan General Anastasio Somoza Garcia. And the newly installed president, Juan Bautista Sacasa, began immediate negotiations to end the war with the Sandinista rebels. So there's one chapter of the Banana Wars in the books. The United States government has a long history, of course, of meddling in Central American affairs for the sake of U.S. corporate interests, and we're sure to see more. You can bet on that. And I guarantee we haven't heard the last of the Sandinistas. You can bet on that, too. Speaking of international news, Joseph Stalin, that bastard over in the Soviet Union. There's too much bad news to report. For those of you who confuse right-thinking communists and socialists with that son-of-a-bitch Soviet dictator, you're all wet. I'm afraid Stalin has forever stained the very term communism by equating it with authoritarianism. It will never be useful in honest debate again, that term. Stalin has stained it beyond repair. Stalin is a brute, an authoritarian, a dictator. He's no more a communist than my Aunt Alma, but he claims it, just like this Hitler guy claims to be a socialist. Say what you will about Mussolini, at least he calls himself what he is, a nationalist, a fascist.
You're listening to The Log, a weekly offering of news and opinion with Lionel Gassell. Brought to you each week at this time by Scotch Cellulose Tape.
Thanks ever so much, everybody. I'd like now to introduce a swell dame. She and I were neighbors up in Lugerville when we were just kids. Well, she's made good out in Hollywood, and would you believe it? She's right here with us tonight. Say hello to Florence Wicks. Why, little Florence Wicks, you haven't changed a bit.
You haven't changed a bit either, Lionel. Same old baggy pants.
Hey, wait a minute. They used to be knickers, you know.
I guess that's right, Lionel. It certainly has been a long time.
It sure has, Florence. Say, you've made quite a success out in Hollywood. We all enjoyed you in Secrets with Norma Talmadge and Eugene O'Brien, directed by Frank Bossage, and The Female with Betty Compson, Warren Baxter, and Noah Beery, directed by Sam Wood.
Well, thank you, Lionel. It was just a wonderful experience to work with such talented and accomplished Hollywood stars and directors.
Don't sell yourself short there, Florence. You're no wallflower, you know.
Well, thank you. But I'm still just a simple girl from Lugerville.
Say, Florence, I'll bet all the young girls out there would love to know the secret of becoming a Hollywood success.
Oh, gee, Lionel, I don't know, except to say, work hard and never give up. Through rain or shine, you've just got to stick with it.
Stick with it, you say?
That's right, Lionel. Stick with it.
Just like Scotch brand cellulose tape sticks with it.
That's right, Lionel. I only use Scotch brand cellulose tape made of cellophane. Scotch cellulose tape seals instantly, without water.
And it's made right here in the good old USA by Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing Company. Thanks so much for being with us tonight, Florence. We'll see you on the silver screen.
Thank you, Lionel. Good night, everyone.
From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, and brought to you by our sponsor, Scotch Cellulose Tape, it's The Log. Once again, here's your host, Lionel Bursell.
Speaking of fascists, January 30, 1933, just this week, Nazi leader Adolf Hitler appointed chancellor by President Paul von Hindenburg. Well, here's the story. They've had 3 parliamentary elections over the last year or so, and they can't come up with a majority in Germany. And now the diminutive Austrian Adolf Hitler has wriggled his way into the chancellorship at the behest of inside power grabbers. Now, if you don't know about this Hitler fellow, it's time you do. He made his name as an upstart Nazi, ranting political bile in beer hall rallies. He got famous or infamous enough to write a book, Mein Kampf, translates as My Struggle, kind of a biography treatise. So the Nazis were rolling along with not that much success, but then in comes the crash of '29 and the worldwide depression. Nazi sympathies began to grow. Hitler's cynical appeal to workers, blaming the elites for all of our troubles, blaming Jews and socialists as scapegoats, his vile notions about a superior race. He's obsessed with genetics. He vowed to, quote, make Germany great again, end quote. Now, his Nazi party garnered just 1% of the vote only 5 years ago. After the November 1932 elections, these most recent elections, Nazis, 33%. So the Nazis, 196 seats in parliament, a full third, and the largest of the parties. So now he's got enough of the public with him, so even his opponents feel they have to go along. But don't worry, they say. Don't take him seriously. They say they can tame him. He's a buffoon. And he promises a parliamentary democracy. But he's anti-parliament. He wants to consolidate his own power. Power through his own force of personality. Don't trust anyone but him. Oh no, don't trust the newspapers. Don't trust the radio men. Don't trust anyone. He must be the most powerful man in the most powerful country in the world with the most powerful army. And of course he's a nationalist. He's buddy-buddy with Mussolini of Italy. Nazis are socially conservative, hyper-conservative, anti-homosexual, against what they call degenerate art, anti-intellectual. They denounce democracy. They denounce what they call internationalism, which to the rest of us is just good old-fashioned neighborliness. Cooperation among the nations of the world. The Nazis and Hitler rail against the corporate elites, but don't let that fool you. For big business, it's all about the money. It's all about the jack. For Hitler, it's all about power. They'll get along quite swimmingly. You can count on that. So sure, Hitler calls himself a socialist. Applesauce, I say, applesauce. German capitalists are doing fine, and you can bet the Nazis won't follow through with their anti-business rhetoric. That's just a lot of hooey for the masses. It's all about power. It's a caper, I tell you. It's all a big lie. Don't take my word for it. He writes it in his own book, in Mein Kampf. The Big Lie. The Große Lüge. It's a propaganda technique. The expression was coined by Adolf Hitler himself when he dictated his 1925 book, Mein Kampf, about the use of a lie so colossal that no one would believe that someone, quote, could have the impudence to distort the truth so infamously, end quote. Now, you may have seen newsreels of his maniacal speeches and put him off as a buffoon, as many have. But look at the reaction from those who adore him. You can see them crying, fainting, aroused to acts of physical violence. They worship him like a god. There have been reputable reports of people in such a state of ecstasy actually shitting themselves. He is perhaps the first politician, to my knowledge, to be quite obsessed, so obsessed with image and personality. He poses for the camera, he preens, and struts for his adoring fan. Heaven help us if at some future election right here in the United States, some lowlife con man convinces enough Americans to support such a scoundrel. Let's hope we have the decency and the intelligence not to fall for that bourgeois. Don't think we're not as gullible as the Italians or the Germans. America, be on guard!
It's The Log, a weekly offering of news and opinion.
Say, folks, I forgot something really important when Florence Wicks was out here earlier. Let's bring her out again, shall we? Here she is, folks!
Why, Lionel, I was nearly on my way back to Lugerville.
Well, I couldn't let you go, Florence. When the producer brought it to my attention, well, I forgot to ask about your new picture.
Oh my, I nearly forgot myself. She'd done him wrong.
That's right, She'd Done Him Wrong. It's a spanking new crime comedy film starring Mae West and Cary Grant.
It's filled with melodrama and music with a supporting cast featuring Owen Moore, Gilbert Rowland, Noah Beery Sr., Rochelle Hudson, and Louise Beavers.
That's right. And it was directed by Lowell Sherman and produced by William LeBaron.
Yes, that's right.
Now, the film has only just been released, but I understand it's already famous for Mae West's many double entendres and quips, including, "Why don't you come up sometime and see me?"
Oh, I'm blushing.
Oh, that Mae West, she really is a bear cat, isn't she? What are some of the other lines, Florence?
Oh, I couldn't. I really couldn't.
Sure, Florence, I understand. You're not that kind of girl.
But I am most grateful to you for having me on your show, and to the wonderful people at Scotch Brand Cellulose Tape.
Well, we're pleased and honored to talk with you, Florence. Let's hear it for her, folks. Florence Wicks! Now that Florence is gone, there is one line from the movie She'd Done Him Wrong. When Mae West says to Cary Grant, and I kid you not, this is actually in the movie. I'm not sure if the censors will allow it here, but, well, here goes. And I quote, "Is that a pistol in your pocket? Or are you just glad to see me?"
It's The Log, a weekly offering of news and opinion. And now a final word from your host, Lionel Bursell.
I mentioned how Hitler and his Nazis call themselves socialists. Propaganda. Hoo-ha. They rail against Marxism and communism, but don't get all balled up by the terminology being bandied about erroneously. It's all baloney. Hitler's no socialist. And I don't want to talk any more about him. I want to talk about a real socialist. Daniel Webster Hone, the Honorable Mayor of Milwaukee. Now there's a socialist. This guy's on the level. A real good egg. He's been mayor since 1916 and he's still going strong today. As mayor, Hone's got a well-earned reputation for honest and efficient government. He's implemented progressive reforms, including the country's first public housing project, Garden Homes, started in 1923. He's a labor man, started his career as a lawyer defending the rights of the worker. During Hone's time as mayor, Milwaukee is right at the center of the socialist movement in America. He, along with other politicians, practice what some call sewer socialism. Now, that little moniker was meant to be an insult, but he and his fellows wear it like a badge of honor. Mayor Hone led the successful drive towards municipal ownership of the stone quarry, street lighting, water purification, and yes, sewage disposal. Because, you see, so-called sewer socialism focuses on cleaning up Milwaukee and other cities after the Industrial Revolution did so much damage. It's a return to the basics of socialism to maximize the help given to citizens. So don't let anybody tell you it's anti-democratic. You can call a dog a cat, but it don't make it so. Sewer socialists. I'm telling you, folks, they're the guys to have fighting for you when you're up against it.
The Log, a weekly offering of news and opinion with your host Lionel Bassell, is brought to you each and every week by Scotch brand cellulose tape, made of cellophane. Scotch cellulose tape seals instantly without water. Made in the USA by Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing Company. Good night from Milwaukee. Stay tuned for Buck Rogers of the 25th century over most of these stations.
So there it is, my grandfather, Lionel, in an archive. So I hope you enjoyed our little highlight show, the best of the season 1. We begin season 2 next week, and there's some pretty important news to share with you. We're changing our format a little bit. The Log is now going to be pretty much strictly me pontificating, the way I tend to do. And the kind of things you heard on this program, more of the radio theater kind of stuff, the improvised stories, that sort of thing, we're going to move that over to Charles Purcell Presents. We're going to resurrect that show. So everything else stays the same. We're going to be on River West Radio in Milwaukee. You can download from any one of your favorite platforms. But we're going to have 2 half-hour shows, one dedicated to current news and politics and opinion, and the other dedicated more to the radio art stuff. So that's what starts next week, Season 2. Thanks very much for listening. This episode of The Log is available right now wherever you find your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, iHeart, YouTube, and the podcast source. Enter Charles Purcell Presents in the search window. Or best yet, go to charlespurcell.com. There you'll find this and all the other series in the podcast family. Follow, comment, and contact me on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks to our flagship terrestrial station, River West Radio, riverwestradio.com. Theme music composed and performed by Peter Donalds. From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell.